My name is Scott Creekmore. I am Vice President of Customer Engagement with Gordian. We are a construction data and software and services company. Started in 1992. Our founder was Harry Mellon. He actually invented a concept called job order contracting, which is what our company was founded on, which is a construction procurement method widely used in the education markets. Since that time, we've evolved. Now we have a planning component, which does facility condition assessments. It does facility asset recapture and a lot of really cool things around planning. And then, of course, we have an estimating component, which is the RSMeans price guide, which started in 1945, is kind of the gold standard of construction data for budgeting and getting a better understanding of forecasting and things like that. And I've been with Gordian for going on 19 years now. Probably right now, today would be inflation. I think everybody is dealing with that. That's really something that's escalated quite a bit over the last couple years, just with geopolitics and things that are going on. I do also think there is a little bit of an experience gap. There's a lot of people that have been in this business for quite a long time and are have just a wealth of experience. They're set out to retire. I think a lot of that knowledge is going to go away because I don't think there's quite a lot of experience that's coming up from the bottom. Although a lot of the younger people that I've met that are in this industry are just phenomenal. And so I do also think so that would be the second thing. Inflation experience is kind of going out the door, maybe not as good of a backfill. And then I think also some of the trades and the constructions are experiencing the same thing. They don't really have that backfill, that experience level that's coming up. So I think you combine all of that. You combine inflation, you combine education experience that's leaving. You don't have a good experience on the construction side, and I think there's a lot of challenges there. And I think that's something that's going to need to be addressed as we move forward. And then I guess that the last thing would be just the cost controls. I think when you have inflation, you have that inexperience, you're going to have cost control issues. So I think really around controlling your costs, something that cost $100 2 weeks ago might be $200 today, and then 2 weeks from now it might be 50. So I think a lot of people in education have to grapple with that. Well, there's a lot of new technology that's coming out, and a lot of technology that's been around for a while that is advancing rapidly. I think through AI, I think through some of the other tools that are coming out. You can look at a lot of different CMMS systems and systems like that that are really tying into exactly what's happening. And I think they're actually on the forefront. They're actually a little bit ahead, meaning their technology, I think for the first time, is staying ahead of the industry, right? I know at Gordian, for example, we are putting a lot of resources into updating our systems, making sure that they're not only current, but they're taking into account some AI tools. They're taking into account a lot of new things and exciting things, experimental things that I think are really going to help the industry stay on track. And then I think a lot of that's going to come down to you know, cost tracking. I think you're going to start seeing software that actually tracks people being on site. You can get an hourly track, you can get a man hour track. And then I think you're just going to see technology that's helping people do more with less. I know that's an old cliche, and I know it's as an old person, I've been using it for a long time. But I do think you're going to see that. And I think that is going to be reflected in the way that agencies can control their costs and hopefully, I'm hopeful too, as I talked about earlier, that new breed that's coming in, they're going to come in with new and exciting ideas. I know every day with the people I work with, especially the younger people, and I'm amazed at the ideas that they have, things I didn't think of, or things that, 3 or 4 years ago we just dismissed that now are commonplace or something that we want to try. So I'm pretty excited about that. I do think right now where it's really impactful, and I know we're seeing it with a lot of the technology that we're developing, is really around like scopes of work and getting the details about the project correct, and getting every detail, because that's really one of the things, aside from the inflation and the experience of things that we talked about earlier, where construction projects really can go awry, is just not having all the detail. Thinking you're doing one thing, you get in the middle of it and you realize you didn't account for that, and then you have change orders and things like that. Right now, immediately, I know, again, Gordian, we're developing some really cool AI software, that's going to help to really pinpoint all of the details and get an incredibly accurate scope, so you know exactly what you're going to be purchasing. You know, the contractor knows exactly what they're going to be installing, and then you layer on top of that some of the cost controls, like say with a unit price book, with like a construction task catalog or something. That's going to really lend itself to just pinpointing what needs to be done and what the cost is. And then I think the next step with AI, and again, some stuff that we're working on, is I do believe you're going to start to get into some predictive costs with that. We already have some predictive costs, but I think you're going to see AI really begin to expand on that. And it's really going to be able to deliver some real time information, and maybe not exactly the cost, but I think what you're going to see in the short term is where things are wrong. You're going to see the imbalance. You're going to see, why is this person telling me it's $1,000? This person is telling me it's $500. What is the imbalance? Could they be in different geographical locations? And an example I use is, I'm in Texas. You know, stone in Austin is much cheaper than stone in Lubbock, because stone is in from Austin, limestone's down in Austin, and Lubbock doesn't have any. So again, if you have contractors that are from those areas pricing it, it's probably going to be different. So, but I think AI is really going to help to provide that level of detail and provide that level of education and comfort, that somebody in education knows what they're getting is actually what they should be taking a look at, what they should be pricing. The obvious answer is safety, right? They need to take care of the safety concerns and things like that. But I really would love to see education take more of a long-term approach. And I know sometimes procurement challenges makes that really difficult, right? Particularly state by state, where you have to bid everything, and everything has to, there's hard to get economies of scale. But I'm hopeful, again, going back to AI, I'm hopeful that with AI and with some evolution of procurement laws, that we can begin to get some economies of scale. We can begin to look a little bit more forward. I know I've worked with some school districts in the area, here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, where they've gone to where they kind of have their high schools being repetitive. They get one set of documents for one high school, and then the next four are going to be very similar to that, so that each one doesn't have to have a full set of drawings. They can make small changes, which will pass on into savings with the drawings, which will hopefully expedite things, which will hopefully keep costs low, because as time marches on, so do construction costs. So if there was a way that we could just do things a little faster, or at least have a little more strategy and planning. And I know I deal with construction professionals in education on a daily basis, and they want that. But there, a lot of times their hands are tied. So I think it's going to actually come to some of our civic and city leaders, and even some of our state leaders, to take a look at this. And are some of the systems that we have in place, that we put into place in 40s, 50s, and 60s, should we be re-examining those? Should we be looking at other options? Should we be looking at cooperative purchasing, or group purchasing, or maybe pooling resources? I think there's a lot of really neat ideas out there, that could really help with some cost controls. I know there's a lot of really cool procurement vehicles. A lot of people just think, well, I got to go get a bid, and then I've got to get a price. And that is a way to do it, but there's also some other ways to do it. For example, job order contracting, where you have a lot more cost control. You have your prices set, so you know what you're going to see across the board. So again, I think innovation, I think AI, and some more cost controls, and using different procurement mechanisms and that are available to you, using all of them, because there's a place for all of them. And I think finding the exact right places and the professionals to help you with it is probably going to be what's going to help